Hello again. In this video, I'll be giving several ideas as to how the British Unionist identity could be integrated into a united Ireland. Perhaps the most obvious and widely proposed idea that I've seen talked about is the retention of our British citizenship. Basically, we and our descendants will remain eligible for British citizenship and British passports in a united Ireland, in the same way that Irish nationalists in Northern Ireland today are eligible for Irish citizenship and passports. Another idea that I've seen suggested, even by some Irish nationalist figures, is making the 12th of July an all-island bank holiday. This is one of those things which I think maybe both traditions could get behind, as not only would it see one of the Unionist community's most important traditions kept alive and supported in the new state, it would also get everyone in the country an extra day off work once a year. I'm sure even the most ardent Irish nationalist isn't going to say no to an extra bank holiday each year, even if they aren't necessarily celebrating anything. I would also say that recognising Remembrance Day is a must, as it is easily the most important occasion to the British Unionist tradition. It is a day set aside to show respect for the sacrifices made by those who have given their lives to protect our way of life, especially those during the First and Second World Wars. That Remembrance Day remains supported in a united Ireland and is able to continue in the North as it always has, as if we were still in the UK, is pretty much essential, I think. A more controversial proposal in regards to integrating the British identity that I've seen some put forward is the idea of Ireland rejoining the Commonwealth. From what I've seen though, this idea doesn't appear super popular with most nationalists. However, I can understand the merit in it. Being in the Commonwealth would perhaps allow us to reconcile the loss of our British identity within the United Kingdom with an adapted British identity within the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth did after all evolve out of the British Empire, and many loyalists in former British colonies and territories such as India were able to reconcile their own identities this way after their countries were granted independence. However, like I said before, it is obvious to me that this would be resented by the nationalist tradition, and it is important that we as Unionists respect that whilst compromise should absolutely be made for us, nationalists are still the majority population and any compromises should absolutely account for that. So how about a compromise within a compromise? How about, instead of becoming a member of the Commonwealth, we instead simply allow the Unionist tradition specifically to continue to be represented as part of the Commonwealth via those structures already in place as per Northern Ireland? Basically, we keep things like the Northern Ireland team at the Commonwealth Games, perhaps renamed to the Ireland team and being represented by the Saltire of St Patrick instead of the Ulster banner. We allow Unionists to participate fully in the Commonwealth Honours system, and we fly the Saltire flag at Commonwealth events alongside the flags of other member states. Essentially, Ireland stays out of the Commonwealth, but Unionists don't lose the cultural links to the organisation that we currently have already. As well as this, a strong and positive relationship with the United Kingdom would also be something ideal for helping Unionists accept a new state. A sort of recognised special relationship, you could say. Regular visits by the royals to Unionist areas in the north would also, I think, very much hammer home the idea that our British identity is still being kept alive and accounted for. Additionally, this sort of commitment to a special relationship could wind up making the Unionist community into a sort of bridge that could strengthen friendly ties between the UK and Ireland post-unity. Speaking of the royals, I'd argue that integrating the Crown in some way might be one of the strongest ways of getting us to fully accept a united Ireland. Now, I can already imagine any nationalists watching this recoiling in horror at the very idea of such a thing, but hear me out. The Crown is the prime symbol of Britishness. Our connections to the monarchy keep us directly connected to 1,000 years of history and heritage, and it is a tradition at the beating heart of our British identity. There could perhaps be no stronger endorsement of a democratically voted for united Ireland in the minds of the Unionist community than the full endorsement of the figure who commands the highest level of respect and authority within our culture, that being the British monarch. Now, this does not mean making King Charles III the King of Ireland. Again, it is important that any compromises made for Unionists do not wind up forcing something onto nationalists that they don't want. So how do I propose integrating the crown in such a way that it doesn't wind up doing that? Well, I've thought of a couple of possibilities. The first one might be the idea of changing the king's title a bit to account for the new circumstances. At the moment, King Charles' full title is Charles III, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, Head of the Commonwealth, Defender of the Faith. Obviously, if a United Ireland comes to pass, the Northern Ireland part will be dropped. The thing is, to members of the Unionist community, he'll still be our king. So, how about instead of dropping any references to Ireland completely from his title, the title is simply updated. Instead of King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, it could perhaps become something like King of Great Britain and His Majesty's loyal Irish subjects. Or perhaps he could adopt an additional title like Patron of the Ulster Unionists or something to that effect. It would mean that whilst he is not King of Ireland or directly associated with the Irish state in any official capacity, us Unionists would still retain an attachment to the crown. Charles would still be recognised as the king of those in the Unionist community who hold the monarchy as an important part of our identity, whilst nationalists would stay as king-free as they are now. Our continued representation as subjects of the crown could also justify keeping things like the Union Jack, coat of arms and royal standard the way they are, with their Irish symbolism intact. Another way the crown could be integrated could be through the use of the British honours system. Reviving the dormant Irish Order of Chivalry, the Order of St Patrick, would create a solid link between the Unionist people and the crown. It would also see an old tradition revived, whilst simultaneously refilling a gap in the British honours system that has been empty since partition. England has the Order of the Garter and Scotland the Order of the Thistle, so why don't we revive the Order of St Patrick for those Irish people who want to partake in the ceremonial British honours system? I've also been throwing around in my head the idea of a ceremonial representative of the Unionist community, who could either be elected by Unionists or appointed by the monarch. Or perhaps a combination of both, an election by the Unionist community and a confirmation by the monarch. Perhaps it could be considered something of a spiritual successor to the position of the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, albeit this time representing only the Unionist community. If we go the route of implementing an honours system, then this could double up with the Grand Master of the Order of St Patrick, much the way the old office of Lord Lieutenant used to. Essentially, the idea is that if these sorts of things are implemented, then it could be argued to Unionists that whilst we may have lost our political ties to Britain by leaving the UK, we may have gained stronger and more permanent cultural ones. Framing it this way could allow us to see unity as more of a change than a loss, and thereby make it easier for us to accept. And again, all without infringing on the nationalist tradition. Yet another idea could involve the use of coinage. At the moment, Irish euro coins are minted with a harp design accompanied by the word heir. Perhaps another design could be circulated in the north alongside this one post-unity, in order to show Unionists that their culture is being taken into account. Some ideas could be the St Edward's or Tudor crown, a crowned harp, or the Red Hand of Ulster, flax flowers, that iconic depiction of King Billy on his horse that pretty much all Unionists will be familiar with, or perhaps the Boyne obelisk. In regards to this last one, it could double up as not just a reminder that the Unionist identity is recognised in the new state, but also a reminder of the gesture of reconciliation that was the obelisk's reconstruction. Needless to say, though, this would only work if the obelisk had actually been reconstructed. So, those are a few ideas of mine regarding how Unionist culture could be integrated into a united Ireland. Again, I've very much tried to make them as unobtrusive towards the nationalist majority as possible. I don't think that there is anything that I've proposed here that should infringe on the Irish nationalist identity or on the integrity of their culture. In the next video, which will be a much longer one than this, I'll be talking about the forgotten Irishness of the Unionist tradition and why I believe that not only could reconnecting with it help to reconcile our British identities to a united Ireland in the event of an Irish unity vote, but could also help us to get a better understanding of and appreciation for ourselves as a culture, regardless of whether Irish unity happens or not. Until then, though, I'll see you later.